as an entire industry, we have to simplify.
Who do you trust? Who do you go to rely?
Negative and noisy and chaotic. Hello from New York.
Greetings from London.
So it's that time of year, we're looking ahead. Lots of companies are starting to think about strategy for 2020, us included. And it's a time of year when we spend a lot of time talking to marketing and procurement about their plans for the coming year. And we just thought we'd take a second to give a bit of what we think is a bit of a state of the nation, and also look ahead, because if you're a loyal watcher of Media Snack over the years, you know that in every January we give you our word of the year. And we thought we'd give you a little kind of preview of what that looks like it's going to be, because there's a few things going on right now which start to tell us really where we think marketers' ambitions are going to lie for the year ahead.
Okay, Tom, so what's going on?
So the first thing is, and this is what we've been asking ourselves, why would you want to be a marketer in 2020? It is hugely and becoming an increasingly overwhelming job. And when we say marketer, we're including the media directors in that and their colleagues in procurement. And we're thinking about media, but probably more holistically across all kind of agency operations and communications. As we know, the job is becoming more and more complicated. There's more stuff that you need to know. The pressures are getting bigger and bigger. But there's a few things that have been going on in the last few weeks that have really brought to our attention just the level of noise and complexity that there is in the industry. And unsurprisingly, we suspect that this is really giving marketers a headache as they plan for next year. And the few things that have been going on, in New York a week or so ago, we had Advertising Week. Love it or loathe it, it is big and noisy. My own perspective is it seems a lot of talking and not a lot of practical action. There weren't that many marketers there. There were a few on stage. It seems to be, it risks, another example of the the industry talking to itself. As a marketer, you would try and navigate that and think, I don't know what my takeouts are, frankly. And, we've said before, agency conferences of this kind of scale probably need to do more to just be really clear on a message and really serve the needs of the advertisers. That's one thing. We've had also last week the ANA's Masters of Marketing, which is a fantastic, very big affair. It's their largest conference of the year. The big headlines that came out of that, of course, Mark Pritchard, again, his rallying cry for, the supply chain and, encouraging agencies to help them take more control of their decision making. We've talked about that a lot. But one of the other big kind of tweetable stories, if you like, out of the ANA Masters was our old friend Gary Vaynerchuk, who again stood on stage and told all marketers that they were idiots and that they were dumb and they were doing it wrong. Again, I sympathise a bit with Gary's perspective. I agree in lots of things with him, but just this whole framing of the challenge as marketers doing it wrong, I think is not hugely helpful. A couple of other things. Another piece of research, this published by Dr. Augustine Fu, who is a friend of Media Snack, has actually been on the Media Snack podcast recently. You should check that out. Published a little piece of research about this group called the Trust Accountability Group, which was an initiative much championed by the ANA and Mark Pritchard, I might add, trying to get sellers of digital media kind of registered or certified as being fraud-free. That was the idea. It was one of the initiatives to combat ad fraud. Now, Dr. Fu is not associated with TAG Group at all. In fact, he's been very critical of them over the years. Published a piece of research which had kind of got into the press circulation, really kind of undermining their role or questioning their role. It turns out TAG are allowing vendors to self-certify, and I can sympathize how this for marketers is a concern, because if you can't trust the body that's supposed to be giving you the assurance, then who do you trust? It's another kind of layer of complexity. And if companies are just paying for self-certification, it's just drawing more money out of the system. This is drawing away from advertiser working dollars firstly, or publisher income, both of which are bad ultimately for the advertiser. So another kind of critical, we're undermining our trade organizations. It's negative and it's probably not helpful to marketers. And the final kind of piece of evidence that I lay out in this kind of marketers having a headache is a piece of research published by Ipsos a few weeks ago and much championed by Ad Contrarian, our friend Bob Hoffman. The piece of research is fascinating. It's part of a multi-year study. I think we referenced this last year. And it ranks professions in the eyes of the public when it comes to trust. And again, advertising executives have come bottom again of the ranking. And just to remind you, that is below politicians, below journalists, below real estate agents or estate agents, you might call them. Even I think, secondhand car salesmen. We are really struggling as an industry in terms of reputation out there. I lay these things out as exhibits of evidence and there are many, many more, which I will stop ranting about. But from a marketer's perspective, it feels negative and noisy and chaotic. And I don't, I entirely sympathize with marketers who are now saying, this is a headache and this is not helping. Okay, so apologies for the rant, but after that rant, then let's just think about really what are the implications for the marketer?
Well, the role of marketing, actually managing media, has never been more critical. Media has never been higher on the corporate agenda. And so the influence of good marketeers to manage that spend properly has never been more vital. Yet their entire role, as you laid out, is under pressure. Many companies are switching out chief marketing officers for chief growth officers, for chief revenue officers, and they are just surrounded by noise and complexity and pressure, both pressure from above and pressure from the marketplace. The biggest implication, I think, is how to simplify it all, how to get to the very hub of what to do to get the most out of your marketing and media spend. Who do you trust? Who do you go to rely to provide you with the kind of guidance that decades ago you will perhaps get from your creative agency? So it's about, I think, the confusion and the complexity and the noise that is surrounding them, combined with the pressure both internally and externally that is making their jobs almost impossible. So in a world of noise and confusion and mixed signals, what I think most marketers are looking for is just clarity and a little bit of simplicity and the provision of help in defining a clear strategy moving forward. And I don't think they're getting that from the industry. I don't think they're really getting that from the trade bodies. I doubt many of them are getting it from their agency partners. And that's often where they come and ask for our help. So Tom, what should marketers be doing?
Wow. Apart from take a very long vacation, which would be advisable, I think just headspace. That's the most important thing, right? As you said, just at this time of year, preparing for strategy for next year, there's just a lot of noise going on. And so you've got to be able to filter that out. But it brings us to our word of 2020. And our word of 2020 is going to be simplicity. I think for the last few years, we've gone through a number of different headlines, and we've called for greater action. This year we called for growth, and we thought growth should be the word of the year. Next year, I think to filter out that overwhelming noise and give marketers a sense of headspace and confidence, I think that they can make the right decisions. As an entire industry, we have to simplify. And to me, that comes down to a few areas. There's probably more, but as far as I can see, there are three areas. One is knowledge. I think marketers have got to be very clear their sources of knowledge and what signals they take from the industry, because it could become overwhelming. You can hear differencing arguments coming from both sides about every aspect of minutiae of the industry. And that means wandering the conference halls. It can be quite a dangerous undertaking because it just gives you loads of contrary perspectives. It's quite difficult to then figure out what the truth is. So, simplifying knowledge, simplifying kind of sources of knowledge, filter out the noise, and just get some kind of really good quality kind of inputs into your decision making. That's the first thing. The second thing is measurement. There's lots of work going on right now to simplify, cross-platform measurement. Lots of really good trade body initiatives. The WFA and the ANA are pushing for these in really good places. That's a helpful measurement, but I think even internally, marketers, you've got to rationalize down to some very simple KPIs, get those aligned with your senior stakeholders within the business, and pick off some kind of bite-sized, achievable things that you can deliver in 2020 and the years ahead. So, simplifying KPIs, simplifying the way that you measure things, I think it changes behavior all the way down the line. And the third part is simplifying operations. We see this, there's lots, we've talked a lot about actually in some ways adding complexity to agency operations, but with the trend for in-housing, fragmenting of scope, advertisers taking more control. But that's got to be done in a way that doesn't add complexity and layers. It's got to create simplicity for the marketer. So they simplify the levers of control of their agencies, and they know that agency operations are fully aligned to their business objectives. That's the critical thing. And there's some good governance kind of basics that we talk about a lot. Not just the contract, but the way that you hire and the way that you pay agencies and the way that you brief agencies. All of those things need a really good look at, I think, in 2020 to find that simplification. You mentioned a lot of the work that we do is designed around trying to simplify this incredibly complex media function. All the way from the upfront diagnostics, where we can give the CMO a perspective of their global media operation and what's working and what needs attention, through to how you can manage your agencies most effectively, and then down through the measurement at the end, the auditing at the end. It's got to be a much simpler undertaking than it's ever been before. And so we believe simplify is our word of the year. We're already working hard to deliver that certainly for our clients. And I think we just need the entire industry to perhaps come together to understand that we're just giving marketers headaches, and the simple solutions is difficult, right? It takes huge expertise to be able to simplify the complex systems, but that's what the marketers need. They need much simpler inputs.
Good advice.
Right, that's been another ranty media snack for you, but that's all for this week. Please subscribe to be updated for future episodes, and if you like this episode, please give us a like. I'll leave a comment down below. But that's it for this week. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.
See you next time.